Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Representative Patricia Hawkins-Williams, for joining us. We extended an invitation to her Democratic primary opponent, Carmen Jones, who was unable to make it with us this morning. And I wanted to say again that I'm sitting in a place that's fairly close to Pompano Air Park, so you might hear some airplane noise. But, great to be in Pompano. Representative Hawkins-Williams, you're running for, this is you're seeking a third term, am I correct?
This will be my last term, yes.
Oh, okay. Carmen Jones reminded us on her questionnaire, your opponent, that there was a time earlier this year when you had considered running for the Florida Senate instead. Is that correct? And what happened there?
Well, that is absolutely correct. And yes, it was my intention to run for the Senate seat. But after the district changed, the redistricting of the lines, the map change, my house was drawn out of that Senate seat, which would have been, it started out being 33, but when the district changed, it changed to 32. And it drew my house out of the district. And I want to follow the law. So I want to abide by the rules and regulation. My house is not in that district.
Okay. Had you run for the Senate, you would have been in the same Senate district as Senator Rosalynn Osgood. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Let's dispose of one thing that's really old news, I would concede, but we heard rumors of this to the effect at the time. Did anyone in the Senate try to pressure you and discourage you from running for the Senate?
Well, you have people that prefer one over the other.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, did Senator Lauren Book try to discourage you from running for the Senate?
No, it was not
Okay.
Lauren Book. No.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, it's old news.
Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish in your next term in the House that you haven't been able to accomplish yet?
Well, I started working on several projects. I'm a foster parent advocate, and I started working on one of the bills that I would really like to see get crossed and at least heard is to actually put something in place, a team that will actually look for kids that's missing in the foster care system. There's no tracking of the kids. If I'm a foster parent and I call you and I said, my child is on runaway, there's nobody that actually goes out and makes sure that that child is on runaway. How do we know that that child has not been kidnapped? How do we know that child is not being human trafficking? There's no tracking or a team to actually look for a foster child if they say they are missing.
This sounds like it would be the definite direct responsibility of the Department of Children and Families. They're not doing this?
I don't know what device they have. I don't know if it would be DCF. I don't know if it would be, will we have BSO? There used to be, when I was in school, that if a child was not in school a certain length of time, they would send a team out to look for that person or that child. I don't know if it would be a deputy. I don't know if it would be a social worker. Someone should be looking for our kids. If I can put something in place to save one child, I have done what I'm supposed to do.
Are you a foster parent yourself?
I have been a foster parent. I am a foster parent director for agent at this particular time.
What does that mean?
That means that the agent itself is for foster parent, and I recruit foster parents, people to actually take kids out of the foster care system. I'm in charge of that. Are
you employed by a social service agency that does this kind of work?
No, it's a foster care agent that actually has a contract through ChildNet to actually go out and solicit people to become foster parents.
Okay. How difficult is it to find foster parents in Florida?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult because we have this myth that children are put in the system because they're bad. And that's the furthest from the truth. 99.9% of the time, children are in the system because the parents are bad.
Understand. I'm going to switch gears for a moment here, and then I'm going to bring in my two colleagues for questions. Describe, we all know that redistricting has made modifications to the districts, to every district, not dramatically, I don't think, in this case. Describe House District 98, where it is and what it's like.
I started out with 92. 100% of 92 is in 98. We receive an additional part of a city that we already had, but we had a small portion. Now we have the majority of that city. The district used to be Dixie Highway to 441, Hillsborough County line to Oakland Park Boulevard. Now we cross over Oakland Park Boulevard and taking on an additional portion of Fort Lauderdale and additional part of Oakland Park.
Okay. Is there any part of Wilton Manors in this district?
No, it's not.
Well,
It's right on the borderline.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
That's okay.
How much of Pompano Beach is in this district?
You have almost 75% of Pompano in the district.
Deerfield.
About 50% in the district.
I'm going to ask you about a local issue that's been very controversial. It's been in the Sun Sentinel. It's been reported on local television stations. I've written about it. It's the case, and I'll brief my colleagues if they haven't seen the stories. But I'm going to ask you about the controversy involving Beverly Perkins in the city of Pompano Beach. You familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Beverly Perkins is the vice mayor of Pompano Beach. She's African American. She was stopped, and I'm saying this mostly for the viewers watching as well. She was stopped, I think, last April or May in the city of Fort Lauderdale by a Fort Lauderdale police officer. She was given a warning for speeding. She was not given a ticket. She used a profanity on the police officer as she drove away. It was a very brief encounter. The video surfaced fairly recently. The Fraternal Order of Police has demanded that she apologize. At a recent city commission meeting, a number of residents came to her strong defense and felt the police officer was out of line. I hope, Ms. Williams, I hope you think I'm generally characterizing it accurately. I wanted to ask you, I guess I'm going to ask you from your point of view as a community leader, who's right, Beverly Perkins or the police?
We have several sides of the story. Her side, the police officer side, and then we have the truth. I don't know the entire story of what happened. I hear bits and pieces, and by me not having the entire episode that unfold, I don't know at this point what took place, how it took place. I'm listening to what the news people are reporting. I'm listening to what people are saying, but I don't have the entire story. So I don't know who's right or wrong. No, I don't feel anybody is above the law. And I feel that it's stated that Vice Mayor Perkins has apologized. I don't know at this point what can they come to the table. I feel that it's more problems that we have than this fight. We should always be able to come together and agree to disagree. If you have a problem with me, I have a problem with you. Let's sit down. Let's see if we can come to some type of conclusion and move forward. This is causing more attention than some of the major problems that we have in Broward County, some of the major problems that we have in Pompano. So instead of all of us drawing all this attention to this, let's focus on the homeless problems. Let's focus on people need food to eat. Let's focus on the gas prices. What can we do? Let's focus on helping each other as a whole versus focusing on that problem.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to open the floor to both Dan Sweeney and Martin Dykeman.
Yeah, real quick, just to follow up on what you just said. You said we need more attention focused on real major problems like homelessness and the gas prices. If you're reelected, what exactly do you do to decrease homelessness and gas prices in the Florida legislature to affect constituents?
Well, I with the Sadowski Fund, I have debated on the floor about the Sadowski Fund not being swept. I have spoke about the homeless problem that we have here in Broward County. I have been a voice for those that need housing and help in rent. There has been money set aside to help in certain cities, in certain locations, but there's more need to be done. We need to do more. There needs to be additional ways for us to help those that's losing their homes because of the increase of insurance and their mortgages. We should do more about helping those that are struggling to pay their mortgage. We need to do more about those that can't pay their rent to keep a roof over their head. We are the state of Florida. We should be able to help those here first before we go out and try to help everyone else.
Okay, there were a lot of, I've covered a few legislative sessions, but this last one, there were a lot of particularly bills that got a lot of pushback from Democrats and liberals, things like HB 5, HB 7. What would you say was the nadir? What was the low point for you of this session? What was the bill you really wish the Democrats could have managed to kill?
I wish we could have killed the one where they want to erase the history of time. I was the only Black woman on the committee to be able to voice my opinion when that bill came out. You want to erase the history of time. My parents fought for me to have the ability to sit at the table with certain people. Why should I not want my family, my children that's coming after me to know the struggle? Why should I want a history erased to make someone else feel comfortable? It happened. It's history. We can't change it. You can't rewrite my story. You can't rewrite my grandmother's story and tell the truth. You only telling your opinion. Our teachers in school should be able to teach history the way it happened, not someone coming there after the fact and rewriting it. I think that was one of the hardest part for me in this session.
And that was in its the I think third committee stop, the Education and Employment Committee. Do you recall what exactly the arguments were in favor of that bill from Avila? Like,
well,
if you're telling me all these,
they are saying that this will stop people from being divided. This will bring us closer together. Teaching that type of history, it divides us as a nation.
Let me, if I can, just piggyback on that a minute, Dan, if you don't mind. Ms. Williams, are you, Representative Williams, you're in favor of critical race theory being taught in the public schools in Florida?
I am in favor of history being taught. The history that happened in the state of Florida. I am in favor of that 100%. Changing the way that it has already been written and rewriting it to the way that you feel it should be written is wrong. Why you want to take away what happened to me because you feel guilty? That's not right. It happened. But what we should be able to do is sit at the table and discuss the issues and how can we move forward together.
Give us an example of, in your own experience, or what you've read about and learned about. Give us an example of the kind of thing that's happened in history in Florida or America that Ron DeSantis wants to whitewash and ignore that should be taught.
Well, personal experience. I was 14 years old, my first encounter with the police department. I was ordered to the ground, thrown in the back of a police car and tucked downtown. I was weighing 75 pounds, soaking wet. I can still hear that officer yelling in my face, get on the ground. I follow him on Facebook. I know who he is. I can hear his voice ringing in my ear from time to time. And we still have those problems to this day. Not only Ron DeSantis, but several people in law enforcement, several people in leadership, they want to pretend that Black people are not treated differently when it comes to certain things, and that's the furthest from the truth.
Okay. I think folks would be curious to know. I'm curious to know what city, where did this happen?
Pompano. I've been in Pompano all my life. I've been in District 92, 98 all my life. And I'm the only candidate that has had that experience to live, work, play in my district my entire life. I didn't leave to go to school. I didn't leave to go to work. I lived in my entire district all my life.
Did you go to Pompano Beach High School or Blanche Ely or?
At Blanche Ely High School, the only Tiger to go to Tally.
Very good. Good for you. I'm going to recognize my colleague, Martin Dykeman. Go ahead, Martin.
One thing that, excuse me, it's rather early in the morning. One thing that struck me about that bill we're discussing was that it applies to businesses as well as schools. As we all know, any modern business with any common sense wants to give its people sensitivity training so that they deal with all their customers in a fair and decent way. But this bill would make businesses subject to being sued if they hurt somebody's feelings when they do that. And I'm surprised, did you detect any sign of the business lobbies of this state trying to lobby against that bill, or did they just sit back and give the governor what he wanted?
Most of them, I never heard from a business. Nobody from a business came to me. Everybody just pretty much sat back and just let it, roll off. You had a lot of support for the LGBTQ community. You had a lot of support for people of color. I haven't heard from anybody from the business, and my doors are always open. We may not always agree, but we agree to disagree, but I have not heard from any of them.
No,
But you didn't see any sign of the business community, the various lobbies opposing this bill because of the liability to which it might expose them?
No.
Not even like, Chamber of Commerce, AIF, any of those guys?
No.
Okay, well,
As a Democrat in a Florida House that is dominated by Republicans, what's the most difficult, the most challenging aspect of your work in that regard?
I have friends on both sides of the aisle, and secretly, some of the Republican members will have a private conversation with me, and they'll say like, well, that was wrong for that bill to be passed. Yes, I know it was wrong, but you said nothing. You sit and said nothing. You voted with it. And my point of view, if you know something is wrong and you sit and do nothing, you're part of the problem.
I can't recall the answer to this question. I'm going to ask you. Were you part of the protest on the House floor late in the session when a group of Democratic members, in effect, brought the House to a halt? The issue was I believe, the gerrymandered map of congressional districts.
Yes, all the Democrats was part of it. Yes, 95% of us. Yes.
Yeah, I distinctly recall some members kind of holding back and not joining in this. Yes. What was the point of that?
Well, I think at one point our back was against the wall. The numbers in Tallahassee is 78 Republican and 42 Democrats. I don't care how many amendments we put forth, whether they're good amendments or iffy amendments, they are always turned down. It's like our voice is not being heard. And people sent us to Tallahassee to make sure that their voices are being heard. And when our voices are shut down, our back was against the wall. We just, at that point, that was the next alternate. That's what we had to do.
Okay. How serious is the housing affordability crisis in House District 98, and what can the legislature do about it?
It's a serious problem. I have working on a case right now where an elderly senior citizen was evicted from a home. I can't understand why we don't have enough funding for people to actually receive help if they're struggling. the state of Florida should always have money for housing. You know, why are we? Well, this year, the Sadowski Fund was not swept. Every year prior to this one, it had been swept. And that money's supposed to have been set aside for people that's struggling to keep a roof over their head.
Understand. Okay. Yep. We interviewed yesterday one of your colleagues, and that is Democratic Representative Kelly Skidmore, who told us the following thing. She said that there are only 3 members of the Democratic caucus who are coming back who anticipate coming back in November who have more than 4 years experience in the House. 3. They are Fentress Driscoll of Tampa, Carlos Guillermo Smith of Orlando, and James Bush of Miami. That is, the 3 of us together have covered many, many years of the Florida legislature, and turnover has gotten a lot more frequent and excessive because of term limits. But that's a dramatic loss of institutional knowledge in the Democratic caucus. How does that affect the way the House Democrats function? Well,
out of those 3, I'm included. I'm the 4th one. We have a lot of new members coming, and several members came to me before I did a transitioning to come back to 98. They called me on the phone and they expressed the need of someone that has the experience that I have to come back and assist. I spoke to Leader Driscoll. I spoke to Christina Huskowski. I spoke to Skidmore. You know, for us to be able to hold the line together, we are few in numbers, but when you have someone with experience, you're able to train the new ones coming in. We don't need members right now practicing. The Republican Party is not a game for them. They're out to kill. So whatever we can do to help each other, to hold the line together as a team, we must continue to do.
What do you mean when you say that the Republicans are out to kill? What does that mean?
All these crazy bills.
Right. Yep. Do you, if you mentor a freshman Democrat in the House, do you tell them, is it your philosophy that let's try to work with Republicans when we can and work across the aisle?
Yes.
Or the opposite? No.
I work across. I encourage all members to work across, because once you work across, or once you just start talking a conversation, we are more alike than we are different. And in order for us to actually, and any Democrat, in order for us to get anything passed, you have to have a relationship with the Republican Party. You have to have a relationship with one of the chairs of the committees, because the chairs actually allow different bills to pass forward. If you don't have a relationship, I don't care how good your bill is, if you don't have a relationship with that chair that allows the bills to go forward, your bill will sit on the table. So you need to have a relationship with them.
I want to ask you a quick question about reproductive rights and abortion rights. House Bill 5, the 15-week abortion ban. My recollection is you voted against that bill.
I did. I voted against it. I debated against it. It's my body, my choice. Why would the state lawmakers decide what's good for me? If I know I'm having a problem, I'm struggling, and I don't want to bring another child or a child here, it should be my choice to make that decision.
We asked your opponent, Carmen Jones, a question about what should be done about abortion restrictions. Part of her answer was she thinks that it should be put to the people as a referendum. We should have a statewide vote on whether we should have abortion restrictions or not. Is that a good idea?
I don't think that law should have ever been put forth. Why? Why would you want to tell me what to do with my body?
Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
When you say it's, it should be up to your choice and everything, I'm given some of your past votes in this, you're saying adults, not minors, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just because you've had some controversy in the past on voting for some of the bills like the parental consent law, which you were a yes vote on that, right?
Well, because I'm a foster parent, and I wanted to clarify this, because I'm a foster parent and I am responsible for a child when they put that child in my care. If I have that child in my care and that child has gone and had an abortion and I don't have the knowledge and don't know what's going on, the state of Florida is not going to ask anybody else other than myself as the parent what's happened to that child. And I'm held liable for that child.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What are you hearing? I'm not asking you to pick a favorite here, unless you want to state one. I'm asking you about your party's two candidates for governor, Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried. And I wanted to ask you what you're hearing from either of them that you particularly like or particularly don't like.
I think right now I'm hearing, it depends on what day of the week I'm asking and what time of day I'm asking. Some say they're Nikki, some say they're Charlie. It's just who you're meeting with. What are you talking about? Everybody has a different opinion at this point. I like the idea of Charlie Crist had the experience of actually holding the seat as the governor already. I like the idea of Nikki holding the seat right now where she holds and has been fighting with Governor DeSantis. So
have you endorsed a candidate for governor?
No, I haven't. I kind of stay clear of everybody else's race. I focus on my own.
Okay. Have you been walking door to door?
Yes, I have. Yes.
And what are you hearing? What are you finding?
Well, everybody is pretty much confused about the redistricting, number one, and the election, number two, because of how they're actually receiving certain documents.
You're talking about these big cards, the supervisor.
Yes.
What's the source of the confusion?
Well, some people think is this my new voter's card? This is how the voter's card is going to come. The ballot itself come thereafter. So when should I fill out what? There's also another type of card that people think they need to put all their information on and mail back. So it's a confusion of what they're actually receiving and what they think needs to go in.
And how is this confusion likely to affect the voter turnout?
A lot of people get so confused, they say they're not voting.
These decisions about the large oversized voter card and stuff, I mean, that's a decision made locally by the Broward Supervisor of Elections, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the redistricting is a decision made in Tallahassee. We know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, what overarching issue in District 98 have we not touched upon or discussed here? You've talked about homelessness. We've talked about housing. We talked about high gas prices. I didn't know what else we ought to be aware of.
Other than that, I really wanted to talk about education, how we're not paying our teachers what they're worth. I'm just dumbfounded about some of the things. You want to tell the teacher how to teach. You don't want to pay them what they're worth, but yet you want to give them a gun to make sure they keep the kids safe. These are all bills that have come across while I have been in the state as a state legislator.
Right. Understand. Okay. Well, we've certainly editorialized strongly against the idea of arming classroom teachers.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that distinguishes you from your opponent, Carmen Jones, that is really important for us and for the voters to know?
I think, and I would like the voters to know that you have invested in me for the past 6 years. You have allowed me to be your voice. I have the experience. I can hit the ground running. There's no learning curve for me. So since you have invested in me, let my experience speak for us.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to close it right there, Representative Hawkins-Williams. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Best of luck to you. Thanks
Thank
for
you, sir.
participating. Okay, and keep working. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.